Cageside with John Morgan.
And welcome back to another episode of Cageside with John Morgan. Noche UFC in the books. It looked amazing on TV. I can't wait to hear what it was like from the man that was in the sphere himself. Merab Dvalishvili dominates en route to unanimous decision over the former champion, the Sugar Show, Sean O'Malley. Valentina makes it look easy. And Diego Lopes, he continues his rapid ascent up the lightweight division with a spectacular performance over Brian Ortega. John Jones, Stipe is confirmed now. And it seemed Conor is left out of the loop, apparently. We're going to dive into all of it. But first, let me introduce the man. His name is on the marquee. He was inside the sphere. What's up, John?
What's going on, man? Yeah, so much to talk about in terms of performances and what's next and bookings and all that. But, man, the sphere itself. Man, I went back and watched a little bit of the broadcast last night on television. And, you could tell me what you thought from a viewing perspective. But I thought they did a pretty good job of communicating how it felt and what it was. But nothing was like being in that building, man. Of all the hundreds and thousands of MMA shows that I've been to over my lifetime, this was, one of a kind. It was just an incredible night.
Yeah, what I thought about it is listen, I thought it was cool. I liked watching it. I'm glad that they saved a lot for the pay-per-view broadcast.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the things I'm like, I hope it does get better, which it did get better. But I'm going to be honest with you, John. It didn't move the needle for me but I think it's because I'm such a big fight fan. I like the fights. I thought telling the story was cool. I thought the unique, 5-part storytelling before every fight, I thought it was neat. But I was clamoring to get that fight in the cage. And so a lot of times I'm just like, okay, I saw it. Let's go. That's just my take. Honestly.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the honesty, and that's good. I can definitely see that. If you're all you really care about is the action that takes place inside the cage, I could see how maybe you'd go, what do we need all this other stuff for? I know you're one of the people like me who, if the fights happen at the Apex, isn't complaining about it being at the Apex because I don't care about the crowd around it. What I care about is what's happening inside the cage. So it doesn't matter. So I can understand it from that perspective. I will agree with you on one thing for sure. Now I unfortunately kind of knew this going in, that the prelims were going to start slow and that the show was going to kind of build to a crescendo as it happened. And I don't think the UFC did a good enough job maybe communicating that to let people know, because I saw a whole lot of criticism early on of this is it? Why did you spend $20 million on this? I don't understand why this cost $20 million. But as the show got on, you could certainly see oh, now I get it. I understand what they did. Listen, I can tell you from being in the building, first of all, just if you're in Las Vegas and you get a chance to go to Sphere to check out whatever you can check out, go check it out. The venue is one of a kind. The sound that it has in there is amazing. Again, the screen itself, it feels like virtual reality. Even when we walked in the door, it looks like there's scaffolding and lighting and wires and all, and it's not. It's literally just a screen that's made to look that way, and it feels like there. So, the whole thing, just the atmosphere of it was amazing. Then, of course, once you got into the storytelling of Mexican Independence Day and the entire culture of Mexico, it really was cool. And it kind of transported you to these different places and times for these bouts to unfold. It was a special atmosphere. It felt cool. And I can tell you, when they did kick it over the main card, everybody that was in that building was instantly wow. You saw everybody's phones coming out. You saw everybody just kind of blown away. I cannot believe I'm seeing what I'm seeing right now. So listen, I thought the presentation was really cool. It's an interesting thing because part of me is funny because I went back and watched the broadcast and I heard Joe Rogan saying some of the things that I was thinking, can we just do this every week? I want to do every show here. It would lose some of its specialness if that was the case. You know what I mean? So if you were doing every single
day. It takes too long to render, John. Do you know what rendering is? It just takes too long.
And you'll have to explain that process to me. I don't know what that is. But as a one-off, it really was special. I do not believe it's going to be one and done. I think they'll do it again sometime in the future. I'm sure you saw the amount of social media impressions and just this was the talk of the sporting world. I'm sure the Sphere appreciates that. I'm sure, the UFC obviously appreciates it. So I think they'll do it down the line. I don't think it'll be anytime soon. You've heard Dana White mention, he's got a contract with MGM Properties. They got an agreement to do a one-off because of kind of some differences they were having. So I don't know that MGM is going to sign off on more of those, but I think there'll be more of these down the road. They are very expensive. They are very complex. It was interesting in watching the TV broadcast. Like, it's not perfect. I mean, you could see like some shadows and some coloring discolorations and some weird camera angles and stuff, but they did a heck of a job producing it. I mean, they were out there doing something that had never been done before and using technology that had never been utilized before, et cetera, et cetera. So I liked it. I can tell you in the building, it felt pretty damn cool.
Here's my only gripe with it. And it's not a gripe because, like, listen, I understand I'm not the demo that they are going after with this.
True. Right. You're already in.
I was buying it whether it was in the Apex, in T-Mobile, or in the Sphere. Okay?
That's true.
But I mean, the main event didn't get over until 1:30 Central Time. That was the problem which I had. It's like I had a few people over, and it was just like kind of, well, people were almost over it at that point.
I can get that. And I will say this to me as well. The two title fights, and we can talk about specifically the performance stuff. The two title fights did not really deliver, right? So that's a shame. You had all these bells and whistles and all the production elements and all this cool stuff going on, and then you didn't get those highlights out of the headliners. And as Dana's talked about before, in a lot of ways, it's what happens last is how you walk out of the building. That's your lasting memory of what that event was like. And I didn't think the Merab Dvalishvili Sean O'Malley fight was quite as bad as I think a lot of people seem to do. I didn't think it was that unentertaining, but when you put it on the end of a Valentina Shevchenko fight that really wasn't very entertaining and her win over Alexa Grasso, you basically had two kind of ho-hum 5-round fights back to back. And so it was a weird feeling at the end of the night, I'll tell you that, because on the one hand, it was like, wow, this was insane. This was history. Like, this is something I've never seen before. And you did have some very spectacular moments and some very spectacular fights that I'm sure we'll talk about. But out of the title fights, even though, your boy went 2-0 on predictions, we'll just say that, even though they went the way I thought they would go, they weren't especially entertaining.
All right, well, let's dive into the fights, right? Because that's what we're really here to talk about. That's really what I want to talk about, and I'm sure everybody out there wants to hear about. Now, disclaimer, I was wrong, right? But I was leaning towards O'Malley for all the reasons that I gave last week. And truth be told, if we really go back and listen to that episode, it played out almost exactly the way I thought it was going to play out. Here's what I didn't count on. Sean O'Malley doing nothing on the feet, not throwing and he was so worried about the takedown that he just was stifled in his offense until maybe late in round 5, where it was like, let's just go for broke at that point. But I didn't take into account. Listen, I knew he'd be hard to get his hands on. He was circling. He was moving. He was doing everything what I said. I said, listen, O'Malley's going to keep it on the feet for the first 3 minutes. Merab is eventually going to get his hands on him, drag him down. And I always thought that the first 3 minutes was going to be enough to win the round, which then eventually would get a UD. That almost played out to a degree. It's just O'Malley, which, unlike O'Malley, didn't throw anything.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment entirely. And it's so funny because, you laid out the case last week, and I had been thinking about more and more. And, in my head, I thought, man, this is Merab's fight from the moment it was announced. But as we got closer and closer, I thought, gosh, I don't know, Sean is so good. But I just stuck to my guns. And I said, no, I'm going to go with my initial read, right? But that is not the performance I expected from Sean O'Malley. And in saying this, I don't want to take away from Merab Dvalishvili, because I thought Merab went out there and absolutely executed on what he needed to do. He showed what we said he could show, right? I mean, he's got great grappling, but what really makes his great grappling even greater is the fact that he has inhuman cardio, right? Like, humans are supposed to tire at some point, and he's called the machine for a reason, because he doesn't tire. And so he displayed all that. But you're right, because that was what I thought, is that in the moments that Sean was on the feet, in the moment that he wasn't stuck on the ground, in the moment that he wasn't trying to defend grappling, I didn't see near the volume out of him that I would have expected to see. And I know that his accuracy and his power, is incredible, especially for the bantamweight division. But it's not like we're talking about, every shot he throws is one hit or quitter, so he only needs to throw like 5 around. This isn't Derek Lewis out there that's just going to wait to throw the one shot because he knows that's all he needs. He still has to put some volumes and some combinations together. And I just didn't see the volume, the willingness to take a chance, whatever it may be. And I think that led to his demise a little bit and led to, UFC CEO Dana White afterwards saying that I thought he looked a little bit flat in there. And I tend to agree, even though, I don't want to take away from Merab because it was a great performance, but I do think part of it was that Sean did look a little flat as well.
I don't know how flat yes, right? He did look flat, and he looked flat because of Merab. I think that's important to throw out there. We've never seen O'Malley look flat, right? We saw him look flat, but because when there's such a threat coming after you, and not a threat of getting hurt, it's a threat of being put where I don't want to be there. And equally as important, I think it's the threat of being tired. You're scared of getting tired. So you're banking some in the tank for later. And it just compounded and compounded and compounded round after round after round. And at range, he just didn't throw. It was, at the least frustrating to watch.
Listen, round one, I pulled up the official stats here, UFCstats.com. Round one, Sean O'Malley total strikes, 14 of 28. Not bad. Round two, 6 of 11. That's total strikes, 6 of 11. Round three, 11 of 21. A little bit better. Round four,
but throwing this at range, but throwing a jab and a straight at range when you know it's not even going to connect, it's just like I'm going through that motion. They're counting that as a strike, as a thrown strike.
I know. And that's what I'm saying. It's just, again, I don't want to see 21 strikes of that. And you're 100% right. It was rough. It was very frustrating to watch, I thought. And, a little bit, the fight started out kind of fun, right? A little bit of controversy out the gate there, a little bit and you're like, man, what is going on here? What is happening? Merab Dvalishvili is yelling at Tim Welch and yelling at Herb Dean and it kind of had a little fun. And then it just settled in. And yeah, it was frustrating to watch. It was a very frustrating performance for Sean O'Malley. And, not going to get a rematch off that. I can tell you that.
Well, okay, let's get off of Sean O'Malley, right? Let's get off of whatever performance he had. Let's get on to the performance that the machine, Merab Dvalishvili, had. Can we say that is a textbook perfect performance that he put in against the Sugar Show?
Unbelievable performance. Again, I was a little bit worried earlier, talking about that kind of early controversy. I was a little bit worried about, like, where's your head at? You know what I mean? Like, don't lose focus of what matters to you right now. You're in this moment. Don't lose focus of what matters. Focus on what's in front of you and let everybody else deal with that. So I was a little bit worried, but he settled in quickly. The movement on the feet was incredible. Again, you talk about the fear of getting tired. I know it may sound like a broken record when we talk about it, but it's something special for Merab when he has zero fear of getting tired at all for 25 minutes. He knows I can go 100%. I can have my foot on the accelerator. I don't have to worry. I can move a lot. The movement that he had, normally with a normal human being, you would say, bro, that's wasted movement. Settle down. You're pushing too much when you're not really doing anything. But because he has the ability to do that, he's moving constantly. He's shooting in. He's throwing punches that are at least giving you something to think about as he shoots in from range. He's staying busy when he's on top. Just everything that he did was fantastic. And on top of that, he's showboating a little bit. He's doing the basketball moves that Sean O'Malley made famous. He's kissing him on the back and walking away before the bell has sounded just to kind of show his dominance. Again, almost cost him, almost lost focus there. But I like it, man. The swagger was there. Everything was there, man. This guy is special. From the very beginning, I think a lot of people wrote him off. He was 0-2 to start his UFC career. Very controversial 0-2 if you go back and watch it. And then reeled off all these victories, man. And I think people were slow to come around on him. But, man, you have to give Merab Dvalishvili his due for how good he is. This is a deserving UFC champion.
What was really impressive in that performance for me was the activity that he had on the feet. Okay? We always said, we know the path to victory for each person, and it played out exactly as everybody expected with those paths. But what was impressive for me, and I hadn't really seen Merab do this a lot, he kept on throwing like these little low inside leg kicks, right? And he would pitter patter. He would throw these little low inside leg kicks. And the more and more I saw that keep happening, I'm like, so one, it's for a couple reasons. One, if it's stopping O'Malley from circling ways he doesn't want him to circle, or two, it's stopping him from ever planting his feet to throw back at him. And probably a combination of the two. But I saw that just over and over and over again. He would throw little things up and then throw like low little inside leg kicks, not to hurt, but just to stay so much. His activity meant that O'Malley was by nature had inactivity.
That's right. Yeah, because you're setting the tone, right? And especially if you're doing things like that, that'll break your rhythm. It's not like, I throw two punches and, we're sparring and, I let you come back and throw two punches. We're not going back and forth in combinations. It's let me set the tone so that you never have a chance to really settle into your rhythm. And boy, it just looked like Sean was uncomfortable throughout the entire fight. I mean, it just really never looked like he settled it in. And, did make a case that, as you said, late, kind of just went for broke, and I wish we could have seen that a little bit earlier. It would have made the things a little bit more interesting because he won that final round, but it was just it was too little too late. It was that simple.
I had little notes in here that I was taking, and one of the things that, whether it could have been like my eyes were playing tricks on me, but it looked like O'Malley never had stable footing in that fight either. It looked to a degree of like, I don't know if he was slipping or was there any complaints about anything out there? Did you notice that it didn't look like his footing was stable the whole night?
I didn't. I'm gonna have to go back and pay more attention to that, man. From like slick almost, like sliding, or just
almost like. And I don't know if it was my eyes deceiving me or because I'm looking for a reason why he's not throwing, which could very easily be the case. You know what I mean?
I'll have to go back and watch that. I didn't pick up on that live, but let's not forget too, I was watching from a little bit different perspective than normally, right? Like I wasn't cage side because of the setup inside the sphere. We were a little further away. And then obviously you're watching with the benefit of a TV with a camera that's right on top of the action, right? So I was watching it from a little further away. I did not pick up on that. So I'll have to go back and rewatch that and see if I can pick up on that.
Okay. So we know the path forward, or at least we think we know the path forward for Merab, right? It's Umar. Which
looks like it's Umar. What a fight.
Money.
Yeah,
take my money.
Look, I know Sean O'Malley's the big star, and obviously we're all big fans of him, and it's a shame to see, and we'll talk about what's next for him. But as far as, and I know that both of us, from a stylistic standpoint, I mean, we said it going in. If Merab can win this fight, Merab and Umar is a heck of a next matchup. Umar was there watching Cageside. His manager, Ali Abdelaziz, was with him. Believe I'll be speaking with Ali Abdelaziz tomorrow for Grind City Media, so I'll try to get an update right there. But he was with him, and obviously it was brought up that, hey, it seems like Umar's next. Now, to Merab's credit, by the way, let me just say real quick, I know it looks like we know what's going next. I've seen some people coming out saying it sounds like Merab is ducking Umar because Umar's name was brought up and he wouldn't mention him.
He just won his world title.
Exactly. Stop that. Take that talk and silence it right now. He's not ducking anybody, but he wants to enjoy the moment. And listen, a lot of champions have said this over the years. Look, it's the nature of what we do. You win and we go, congrats. Who's next? But when you win this UFC title, for the first time especially, if you're not getting it back, if it's your first UFC title win, give that champion a moment to just soak it in. This is a lifelong ambition and dream and effort that has been attained and realized in this moment. You saw the emotion that he had with the belt and just the tears and all that. Give a man a moment just to soak it in and relax before we start pairing him up for somebody who's got to start thinking about tomorrow morning.
It irked me a little bit that question got asked. I think, Dana, in my opinion, Dana White, unless it's a guy retaining and then it's always been looking like this is the guy and we bring him in it irked me a little bit. What also irked me a little bit, I'm going to just be straight up with you. I thought Merab would have done a better job and would have been a better comedic performance on the mic afterwards. But I just think he had so much emotion about winning. I was waiting for him to go into shtick and put on the performance of his life in that post fight, and I didn't get it.
It wasn't his best performance on the mic. And I was saying afterwards, I think let's remember, number one, working in a second language, so let's give him credit there. But also, yeah, I just think the excitement got to him for the moment. I mean, here he is in the Sphere. He's been calling for Sean O'Malley for how many years? He finally gets him, and he absolutely dominates him. He's got the belt. I mean, this dude was a construction worker, chasing after his dream, working in construction during the day and training at night, and now he's a UFC champion. There's money coming in, so I agree with you. I was disappointed, but yes, let's give him a pass on this moment.
All right, so we look like it looks like, I mean, even if the rankings shake out, I mean, it's going to be updated today, but Merab's the champion. I don't see O'Malley going into that number one contender spot. I really think he's probably going to be around 2 or 3. So Umar's going to be that number one contender, probably then followed by O'Malley at that point, and then Jan Sandhagen. Figueiredo's looking great at that weight class, and Henry Cejudo. So
Merab said he wants Figueiredo, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great fight.
It's going to be Umar. It's going to be Umar. It's going to be
Umar.
Yeah.
O'Malley. Let's talk about his path forward. Because with that performance, I don't see a clear path back other than if, like, hey, he's a superstar, we want to get it. We want to get him another shot. I am intrigued by the Henry Cejudo fight, though. I'll tell you that. But I think whether it makes logical sense or not, I do think, since Sandhagen lost, he drops down. I do think that that O'Malley Figueiredo would be a great fight. But from a let's sell pay-per-view standpoint, I would be interested in a Henry Cejudo O'Malley matchup.
I agree with you. There's a lot of options on the table right now, and I think you kind of laid them all out there. And so I think it depends, obviously availability and timing and all that stuff. We don't know when Sean wants to fight. Maybe he needs a little mental break. You know what I mean? Look, we've seen things like this where guys are, the spotlight is big on him, and not that he's not, capable of delivering in the spotlight, but maybe it just got to be a little much, feeling pressure to not only win, but to win a certain way, and to not only, to act a certain way and all that. So we'll see what he wants to do. But when he's ready to fight again, I agree with you, right? Because look, Corey Sandhagen would be a phenomenal fight. Stylistically, that's a great fight. So you got that one on the table. I mean, I think that'd be a striking delight. That'd be a lot of fun, man. That'd be high level martial arts. Deiveson Figueiredo is looking for a number one contender fight. He wants a title fight. Merab has actually said he'd like to fight Deiveson because he wants to keep fighting former champions. He's going to get Umar next, but Deiveson might want to say, hey, put his hand in the air and say, I want a number one contender fight. Let me fight Sean O'Malley. If I beat Sean O'Malley, then I get a title fight. So that's an option on the table. You could even throw Petr Yan out there as well. Yan kind of came out and said, listen, there's some controversy between us last time around, and maybe I wasn't ready for a title shot, but now that you're not the champion, maybe we can revisit that. But from just a business perspective, which the way the UFC looks at it, yes, they look at rankings. Yes, they look at what matters. I think you're right about that. The Henry Cejudo fight, they had a little fun during fight week. Cejudo was interviewing him, and Sean O'Malley just went on Henry Cejudo's podcast just to clown him, which was hilarious.
Great, by the way. And I love Henry Cejudo. I'm a big Triple C guy. But for him to be like going on him and Usman's podcast, just to be like, hey guys, oh yeah, click. Like I thought it was hysterical.
Even Cejudo can't get mad at that, right? Like Cejudo's the biggest troll of anybody on the UFC roster, right? So even he had to be like, all right, you got me, bro. You got me on that one. So I agree. Those two would talk a lot.
He's like, hey, he got us, Usman. And he's like, no, Usman's like, no, he got you.
That's so great. But yeah, man, again, from a business perspective, out of all those matchups we just lined out there, and listen, every single one of those matchups I just mentioned, viable. If the UFC announced it, you wouldn't get mad at it. You know what I'm saying? It'd be like, okay, this makes sense, et cetera, et cetera. But if we're talking about, I need a co-main event on a pay-per-view, or I need, I'm trying to sell, I need something big on a pay-per-view. Man, I think that's the one, because those two would get out there, they'd sell the fight, they'd have a lot of fun going back and forth, and I think it'd be a fun matchup either way. So I think that's any
big ABC cards coming up in the works in the next 4, 5, 6 months. Like that's something I think that would headline like an ABC card.
Put that one on network television. They don't have any announced, but that would definitely make some sense.
So I really think that's probably the fight to make for O'Malley. Like, hey, let's give him a fun fight. One legitimate enough that he can claim to be the next guy.
Yep.
See what happens. I think Figueiredo, people still look at him. Say, go.
As a flyweight. I was gonna say, yeah. I was gonna say is I think my prediction will be either A, we'll see this December 7th in Las Vegas if it's any of those matchups, or we see, Sean O'Malley next year, because Madison Square Garden is in November, but I think that's stacked already, too close for him to turn around. So I think either December 7th at UFC 310 here in Las Vegas, or we see him early next year. And maybe by that time you do have an ABC card. Maybe by that time you're ready for a network television event again.
Yeah. So, all right. Great performance by the machine. Take my money with Umar. But Valentina, listen, the fight was what the fight was. Okay.
Yep.
We don't need to spend a lot of time on it. In my personal opinion, I think Valentina Shevchenko came out there and said, let's make no mistake who the better fighter is, where my place is in the division. And she went out there to prove a point. And I don't care, damn, whatever. Alexa Grasso, you're a great fighter. You are a great champion, but you're not on my level. And I am going to prove it tonight in every round over the course of 25 minutes. I really think that was the thing. She got into grappling exchanges with her every single round where that was the position that she lost both fight 1 and 2 because of the grappling exchanges. And she went out there every round just to show, in my opinion, because she was clearly winning on the feet as well. Yeah,
it was interesting. I was sitting next to Kevin Iole during the fight, and we were kind of talking. We're like, man, this is not a great fight. It was unfolding. But, I kind of had the same opinion you did. Look, man, did Valentina Shevchenko walk away with any new fans on Saturday night? Like, absolutely not. Nobody watched that fight. It was like, that's my new favorite fighter. I can't wait to see her compete again. But she did what she had to do to get her belt back, right? I mean, she wanted her title back. And in the process, I think she absolutely eliminated the possibility that there's a fourth fight between them, at least right now.
100%.
There's no way. Because and it's twofold, because number one, there was no controversy and it wasn't even competitive whatsoever. So why would you want to see it again? And number two, it wasn't entertaining. So why would you want to see it again? So they've seen enough. I think Manon Fiorot, who weighed in as a backup, I think she's waiting in the wings. I think that'll probably be the matchup this next. So as you said, not probably something we need to spend a lot of time on. Not an incredibly exciting performance, but look, Valentina Shevchenko still one of the all-time greats. This was not one of her best performances in terms of entertainment, but as you said, she proved dominance. And listen, Alexa had said coming in, look, if by chance I lose this fight, she's got to give me another one, because I gave her another one. But after that, I don't think we're seeing it.
I can tell you right now, listen, they're meeting in the war room right now, probably. UFC headquarters. And to answer that question is,
Yeah, that's not even getting brought up. That's not even a discussion. Just so we're all on board here, right? We're not doing that. Okay. I just want to make, all right. Just want to make sure we're all on the same. Okay, now where do we go moving forward?
So I want to, okay, so that fight was that fight. And I said it before. I'm not betting against Shevchenko. She has greatness on the marquee above her name. The greatness, the great Valentina Shevchenko.
We were both leaning in that direction, right? I mean, as weird as that was, we were both leaning in that direction, even though she was 0-1-1 against that opponent heading into the match. And, oh, by the way, even though Alexa Grasso looked great, by the way, man, looked to be fit and in phenomenal condition, everything coming in. But, Valentina went out there and dominated. And that'll probably be the least we ever talk about a UFC title fight.
Absolutely. But let's dive into this fight now. Her teammate, her assistant coach on The Ultimate Fighter, Diego Lopes, continues his rapid ascent up the featherweight. I said lightweight earlier. Up the featherweight rankings. At 12, he beats 3 by Dana White's logic. You go from 12 to 3. And everybody in the divisions, you go from 12 to 3. Did you put him at 3 today?
I didn't. He's a little bit lower than that. I think I got him at 5, if I recall.
I even said that when he said, I go, how can you go from 12 to 3? I turned to everybody in my house. DC had a little rough night too, but we'll get into that later. Maybe.
That's funny.
But I'm telling you, I was shocked how wrong I was about this fight. I said last week, listen, he's not going to be able to bulldoze through Brian Ortega on the feet. And please give me grappling exchanges. Please give it to me. Guess what he did do? He bulldozed through Brian Ortega on the feet. Like, I thought he was crafty enough, tough enough to withstand all that, get into some clinch, maybe jump a guillotine like he had, even on the feet, do some things. No way, shape, or form did he even get close to doing any of that. And it was utterly impressive.
See, you and I, obviously, veterans of the game around a lot. I am so impressed by Diego Lopes in this performance, right? Because, we said coming in, look, Diego Lopes has steamrolled some people, but Ortega's been in some wars, and you know what I mean? If this thing goes late, watch out for Brian Ortega. T-City's the crafty vet who's been against the best of the best. So I was almost even more impressed that Diego Lopes didn't get that quick finish. You know what I mean? Because it looked like he was going to have this thing done in like a minute, right? And I'm like, wow, unbelievable. But the fact that he didn't, and the fact that he was still able to maintain his dominance over the course of 15 minutes, to never really face any threats from Brian Ortega, I was almost even more impressed by that in this decision than I was by a quick finish that he's had over some of his other opponents. This is one I got completely wrong as well. I was like, hey, I think Diego's the guy. Not that I counted him out, but I was just like, man, T-City's that vet. I think he's going to get this one done. He's going to find a way to get something, right? He's going to find a way to latch on to something, to find some crazy submission, and it was just never even close. There were some threats, but that's all I'd call them, just minor little setups. He never even had anything in place. So unbelievable performance from Diego Lopes, who it just looks like the sky is the ceiling for this guy, and you got to give him some big fights next, man. You got to give him some big fights.
Please give me, I don't know what's on the horizon for either one of these guys. Please match him up against Arnold Allen or Yair Rodriguez.
Yep.
One of those two fights. And I want to see Yair Rodriguez and Diego Lopes. I don't know if there's a relationship there. I don't know if Rodriguez got anything booked. I do think that listen, I know Ortega beat Yair, right? But I think the unorthodoxness of that, and I want to see that fight. MMA math doesn't equal out all the time. I think this is one of them where it's like, because A, then B. I don't think you can say that in this fight. I would love to see contrasting styles like that.
I love that. I think that's probably the fight to make to me. One of those, because you asked where I had him set up. I had him right below those two guys. I had Yair, Arnold Allen, and then Diego Lopes right below him. So that would be the ones that are right above. One of those two matchups makes sense, and I like the Yair Rodriguez matchup as well. I did see maybe Alexander Volkanovski was throwing out there that maybe that's a potential matchup as well. Certainly wouldn't hate to see that. I mean, Volk against anybody, that'd be a great fight as well. But I think Volk still has kind of right of refusal on that. You know what I mean? So we got to see what he's up to. But any of those fights, I mean, those are the names. It's going to be one of those names because you have Ilia Topuria, the champ, facing Max Holloway, right? We know that that's coming up next. Then you take those two names out of the top five, and you have Alexander Volkanovski, Yair Rodriguez, and Arnold Allen. It's going to be one of those three names. Diego Lopes is not fighting down in the rankings at this point. He's earned that. He's shown it in his performances. He's shown it in his willingness to, look at what he did in this fight alone. Last time out from 145 to 155 to Dan Ige, and he said yes, yes, yes. And then they say, hey, right? And we're gonna run it back, and no problem. You know what I mean? The guy just does what he's asked. He goes out there and he performs. He continues to do amazing stuff. So they're not going to ask him to fight down. It's going to be one of those three names. And stylistically, boy, I do like that Yair Rodriguez fight.
In a weird way, I wouldn't mind seeing him against Aljo either.
Oh, now see, that would be like a situation where you're fighting down in the rankings, but not really, right? Because that's a former champion who's moved up, who just isn't up in the rankings yet because he hasn't had that many results. So good job there. That's the one asterisk caveat that would see him potentially fighting down in the rankings. So well done there. And yes, sir, I would sign up for that fight in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Did you see that Aljo put out a tweet though? Like, hey, this is what happens when the deck isn't stacked against you type deal.
Did he really? Oh, no, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, so something's I don't want to go searching for it, but it's like masterful performance. This is what happens when the deck isn't stacked against you type. I'm like, so are you not that happy for your boy? Like, what's going on here?
Oh, that's funny, man. Hey, there was some weird stuff that was brought up, right? Like Merab was like, I nobody ever asked us to fight. Maybe we would. I don't think they will though.
Here, actually, I actually was going to text you this during the week, and I just didn't for the sake of you making me feel stupid because I may have not have known something. So I watched the embeddeds, right? The countdown. Right. Everybody knows about the relationship that Merab has with, Matt Serra, Ray Longo, and Aljo in particular. Okay. Right. It's been well documented. They all know they're best of friends. They'll never fight each other. We're best of friends. Blah, 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 blah. I also know that he's training with John Wood out at Syndicate MMA now full time.
Right.
What the hell was going on there? I didn't see one training footage of Aljo helping him get ready. Now, full disclaimer, Ray Longo and Aljo were in his corner, but in a weird way that I was like, I am clearly missing something here.
Well, I think what it is, honestly, is what it really boils down to is a lot of fighters are moving out to Las Vegas. There's some very good tax incentives here, right? We don't have state income tax. So if you set up residency in Nevada, now you're not paying state income tax on your winnings. Also, you've got the Performance Institute, right? The Performance Institute is fantastic, right? You know that you've got free rehab there. You've got free food if you like. You know, yeah, they take care of all your nutrition, which may not sound like a lot. Like, I can pay for a meal, but dude, if you're training full time and your entire life is about training and recovery, to be able to have all your meals not only planned for you, but prepared for you, and all you got to do is just go pick them up and take them because they'll cook your food so that you can take it on. I mean, it's smart. So a lot of guys are moving out there. So I think that's what you're seeing is that Merab is taking advantage of those opportunities that are laid to him here, but he maintains those relationships back home, which is why he still brings out Ray Longo. It's just, you know, when you're out there in New York, man, the cost of living is incredibly higher. The taxes that are involved. There's just a bunch of reasons to be here in Nevada. But I know he's still very close to those guys and still, you know, remains very much a part of the Longo squad.
Yeah, I was just, you know, everything was syndicated MMA. Everything was that, and I didn't see that. Even like during a lot of the fight week stuff, I didn't see it. You know what I mean? I was just a little like, It's
a little different, but I think no, I get it, and you know what? I'm kind of glad you brought it up because I bet if you saw it, I bet other people are the same thing. Like, how does that work? I thought he was part of that team, but I think it's really just more about it's smart business, to be honest with you, to set up your residence out here. I know that's tough for Ray Longo because he loves those guys, and it's tough for him to have to come out here. But I know they still stay in touch, and obviously John Wood and the Syndicate crew, man, a great squad out here in Las Vegas as well.
You know what the great thing is I love the coaching. Just getting Ray Longo in your corner for sound bites. There's nothing better than that. Way to go, Merab. Yeah. How about you just run through this MFer? Just run through this MFer. Like, that was his advice. Like, I love it, man.
He's the best, man. He's old school, right? You know what I mean? He brings that old school mentality. He's got that delivery, man. He's a stud. I love that guy. And just, man, a super nice guy, by the way. If you ever run across him, man, just a great guy to sit and talk to and pick his brain.
I did get a chance to briefly meet him, said hi, shook his hand at UFC Nashville. We were both checking through security at the time, and I was like, turn around. I'm like, that's Ray Longo, man. That dude looks like an unmade bed right now. He didn't even bother brushing his hair at all.
You got time for that? Yeah, you got time for that.
He's like, yeah. I know I'm going on national television in an hour, but follow me.
That's the best.
You know, just walking through with his coffee and whatnot. So it was funny. But,
that's that swag level when you know, like, hey, I got respect. I don't need to worry about how my hair is looking. I'm not really worried about whether my shirt's pressed or nothing like that. Like, I'm here to do some business. I'm not here for images.
Man, Ray Longo's he's a gem in this industry. Okay, so now let's get to the MSG. John Jones, Stipe Miocic, finally official. I forgot to put the date down. What date is that? Is November? I know it's mid-November.
It is November the 16th at Madison Square Garden.
All right, and that's what, 308?
That is 309. 308 is Topuria and Holloway in Abu Dhabi.
Okay. I was listening to Joe Rogan, his podcast with Bilal Muhammad, just, I don't know, a week ago or so. And I'm telling you, Joe Rogan, he turned me a little bit, right?
Okay, all right.
He was like, he's like, the disrespect that they are showing Stipe right now is crazy. He's like, this guy has knocked out everybody. He's the most accomplished heavyweight of all time. And he hasn't fought for 3 years. He's been training. He's always been able to take a shot until he went back to back with, you know, Ngannou, right? Then
right.
Daniel Cormier, Ngannou, like back to back, right? And now he's healed. He's the guy who took the time off. He's only looking for that big fight. He's like, this guy can crack with anybody in the world. And the level of disrespect they're showing this guy. And I'm thinking about it. I'm like, you're damn right, Joe Rogan. You're damn right. They are disrespecting and I've made it known, my favorite fighter, Stipe Miocic, just because he's the family man, still working as a fireman. How can you not love that damn guy, right? He's a multimillionaire. He's still working as a fireman. You know, he's taking private jet home because it's birth of his family. Like, I love everything about that guy. But have we been disrespecting him a little bit too much?
Well, it's a good question. It's a good question.
Because if you look at that timeline, Ngannou, Cormier 1, Cormier 2, Ngannou, and I don't know, I don't have it right in front of me, but I'm going to say that was in the span of under 2 years.
It's 3 years, but not much. So 3 years. And I mean, by the way, if you want to keep going back from that, it's Junior Dos Santos, Alistair Overeem, Fabricio Verdum, Andre Arlovski, Mark Hunt. I mean, the guy has not had an easy fight in a long time. So you're right about it, right? I mean, you're I like some of those points. I think they're valid. He is still 42 years old. And let me say why I think they're valid, because I do believe that in most situations, when anybody talks about this fight, they talk about it as a foregone conclusion. Like, why are we even doing this fight? This isn't even competitive. Stipe has 0% chance against John Jones. And he doesn't. He doesn't have a 0% chance against John Jones. He's the former heavyweight champ of the world. He has more title defenses than anybody else. He still hits hard. He's incredibly skilled. He's not like a dude that, even though he hasn't fought in a while, has been out partying and, you know, on the scene and not training and whatever. You know what I mean? He's got an active lifestyle. So for those reasons, I would say yes. But let's not forget, he is 42 years old. It has been 3.5 years since he's competed. And let's not forget, the matchup is with John Jones. Now, if this was
frickin' Jones,
you know what I'm saying? If this is Stipe versus Cyril Gane, or Stipe versus Alexander Volkov, or Stipe versus maybe even Sergey Pavlovich, I might say, hey, man, let's give the guy some credit. I know he's 42, but he's still this. It's John Jones. It's right. John Jones, who may not be the pound-for-pound number one fighter in the world right now, at least in my opinion. He's not. But he is the greatest of all time, and there's no question about that. And so you're right. He probably deserves more credit than he's getting, but to pretend that this is not an uphill slide, an uphill grog, it would be untruthful.
I don't think anybody's discounting that. And truth be told, like, listen, in here, we make past precedent the basis of our decision and our predictions moving forward.
Right.
I mean, that's fair to say, right? In everything.
That's sound. That's sound. Okay. I have to have seen it.
Let's take the 3 years off the table, right? And let's take the viciousness in which the way he lost to Francis Ngannou. Let's just say he lost to him, right? Great competitive fight. He lost to him. Would we be singing a different tune? I think probably. Now, look at this. Look at it from this standpoint. The shots that he was willing to take in Ngannou 1 that he couldn't take in Ngannou 2. Why? I'm not going to say it's because of his age. What I'm going to say at that point is because I think Daniel Cormier caught him with a perfect punch, put him out. That Daniel Cormier in 2 hit him with those same exact punches over and over and over again, didn't put him out. So now let's do the MMA math, or the head math, right? He didn't get put out by those shots by Ngannou 1. And in round number 1, he took a freaking beating. Okay. Yep. But then just a plumb uppercut puts him out in Cormier, his very next fight. Right. Long layoff. Comes back in a war with Cormier, who hit him with those punches over and over and over and over and over again, to then he finally overcomes it. He's able to withstand those punches, to then seemingly, in the grand scheme of things, quick turnaround, and he's not able to take Francis Ngannou's first punch.
Correct.
That's where I'm going with this, right?
I like it.
Layoff, right? I'm not saying he's going to win. But I'm just, when I look at it that way, the disrespect of saying, like, this guy can take a punch, he can crack back at this weight. Do we know if John Jones can take a real legit heavyweight punch yet? We don't know.
No, we don't know. We didn't see it, so we absolutely don't know.
That's the point I'm trying to make. Now, yes, would I rather see Aspinall? Yes. Listen, all things can be equal at the same time. All things can be right. I'd rather see Aspinall. I think this is a better fight. I think that's what more people want to say. But at this point, I'm not willing to disrespect Stipe Miocic anymore.
I like it. Not MMA math, but it's like MMA calendar math. You know what I mean? Like I like what you did. But you make a case, and the logic that you lay out is not silly. I mean, there's something to it, right? I mean, there's science to it, et cetera, et cetera.
Your brain can only take so much, and it needs a break. Yeah. Look at Justin Gaethje. He says he's not fighting for a year.
Which is smart, right? It's absolutely smart. He knows I need to let myself rest. I need to let myself heal, not only just for my competitiveness now, but also for my health long term. You know what I mean?
So it's good. Let themselves take a time off after a really, really, really tough time. Alexander Volkanovski.
That didn't work out so well. I like what you're saying. You're making some good points. You got some logic here. I would just say that when I counter, like, I'll be honest with you, with me saying that I think Jon Jones wins this fight very handily doesn't even have anything to do with Stipe Miocic's ability to take a heavyweight punch, because I don't even know, I don't even think of Jon Jones as that power shot guy, even as a light heavyweight, much less as a heavyweight. So I do agree with you. If that's what people are thinking, if that's what your logic is when you break down this fight, is that, man, I just, Stipe's done. He can't take a punch anymore, so this is going to be a bad fight. I do think that is wrong. I don't think that factors in here. I think the time away from that perspective is good. It's just, man, to get yourself back into game speed after 3.5, 4 years away, and to do it against Jon Bones Jones is different. A guy that, again, I don't think is necessarily going to crack you with that one-hitter quitter, but that will threaten you from every potential angle, can use punches, kicks, elbows, knees, all the tools, and also pretty dang good grappling, great clinch work as well. So it's just a number of weapons, and at 42 years old, taking on the GOAT is a tough challenge. But you are right. We probably should not be speaking of it as a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, is he going to be a 4-1 underdog? Yeah, probably. I don't know what the line is. Is it 4-1?
It's got to be up there, because it is. And the other thing to remember too is, regardless, weird things do happen in heavyweight MMA, right? I mean, yeah. Well, you pretty much nailed that one. Jon Jones is -410, and Stipe is +320 according to DraftKings right now. So, yes,
I mean, that's just a safe
4-1.
He's a 4-1. He's a 4-1 dog. Listen, I saw him knock out Verdum going backwards.
Oh my God.
I know the guy can hit hard. I've seen him put out. I've seen him put out Daniel Cormier. I've seen him put out the best of the best. Listen, is he the severe underdog? Yes. Is it going to be an extremely uphill battle to climb? Yes. But now that it was announced, and when I heard Joe Rogan start talking about like the shots to the head and all this, that, and the other, I was like, you know what? The only fighters that can fight well into their 40s and be utterly successful are the heavyweights.
Heavyweights. You're 100% right about it. Boy, it's funny. You're naming off some of those fights. I wanted to take a look at what a run that was between 2015 2017. In consecutive results, he had knockouts over Mark Hunt, Andre Arlovski, Fabricio Verdum, Alistair Overeem, and Junior Dos Santos. I mean, that's insane, man.
Then he takes Francis Ngannou when everybody was terrified of Francis Ngannou. He humbleized Francis Ngannou for the first time where Francis has been humbleized. I don't say that disrespectfully, but made to look somewhat human. And he took every shot from Francis Ngannou and walked through them. Then to get put out by a plum uppercut by Daniel Cormier, then takes time off, avenges that, and takes Daniel Cormier's best shots over and over and over again and walks through them, to then get put out by the first shot by Ngannou, to then now taking this long layoff. And I just when I think about that in totality that way, I get a little excited, man, about what I can potentially watch.
I like it. You are making the case for it to be very interesting. It was funny. I was pulling up something real quick because I wanted to check, because you talk, just to put into perspective from anybody that may not have been around back then as to what Francis Ngannou was thought of at that point. I was trying to remember if Francis Ngannou was actually the betting favorite in that matchup, and he was. Stipe Miocic, despite having that run, despite being the defending champion, was a plus 150
and
dog.
And he looked even more terrifying. Remember, he had the braids. He literally looked like the Predator. The kid, I mean, with the Brett.
It was an unbelievable time, man. Unbelievable time.
Yeah. So now, last thing as the co-main event on that, it's going to be Michael Chandler versus Charles Oliveira. Michael Chandler versus Oliveira, not Conor McGregor. And he just said, Michael Chandler said, "Hey, listen, I got Conor's timeline. I hadn't said anything about it, and so I'm not willing to wait. Me and Conor will fight next. We have to end this story, but I can't wait that long. I'm an active fighter." To then Conor saying, like, I'm left out, giving a press conference at BKFC. I'm left out of the loop. I don't even know anything. And none of this was told to me. I don't know.
Yeah, listen, maybe nothing was told to him of about what Michael Chandler was doing. I could believe that because the UFC doesn't need to run anything by him to sign something with Michael Chandler. So I believe that perspective. I was a little bit surprised that, Conor suggesting like, I don't know, I'm trying to get a fight. They won't book me. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know that I buy that one. I noticed he said that at a BKFC press conference where obviously nobody's going to check him at that point. Listen, Dana White's Contender Series is Tuesday night here in Las Vegas, and we don't have a big UFC event to talk about coming up on the weekend. So I have a feeling Dana White maybe asked about that a little bit and get some clarification on what's going on with all that. Yeah, it's a bit bizarre. It's a bit bizarre, but I can't blame Michael Chandler. And I love what Michael Chandler is saying. Like, look, Conor's not going to be my next fight, but I will be Conor's next fight. And I believe that that's the case. You know what I mean? I have. Even if he loses to Charles Oliveira, I believe the UFC will come right back and say, we made a promise to you. This is the fight that we think makes the most sense for Conor McGregor, and here's the fight that we're going to offer Conor McGregor. Conor at that point can turn it down if he wants. He can say, I'm not interested in that matchup. But guess what? Now you're turning down a matchup and your contract gets extended, right? And he's trying to get through these 2 fights to maybe pursue free agency, to pursue other options. Maybe he ends up going to fight in BKC. Who knows? It's a weird situation, man. It's unfortunate that it's played out the way that it has. I got a lot of respect for Michael Chandler waiting all along. He's been saying, hey, we're not letting this guy off the hook. We're going. And again, from everything I've ever, talked to Michael Chandler about or those around him, like, he's in a financial position where he has the ability to wait if he wants to. But, as a competitor, I mean, you want to compete. You want to go out there and the window's only so big for you to compete in.
And when you're presented with an opportunity of Madison Square Garden,
yeah,
it's enticing.
You got to do it, right? You got to go take it, man. That's a big opportunity. So, yeah, and man.
I loss at Madison Square Garden.
It came out of nowhere, man. It really, the matchup came out of nowhere. It's not something that we were expecting to see. It's a rematch of a fight that we've seen before. It's one that Michael Chandler lost. So as you said, he gets a chance to get revenge. He gets to fight in Madison Square Garden again. It's a great fight. It's 2 guys that go out and put on exciting fights. Like, you don't even have to care what they're ranked. I mean, oh, by the way, it is a very important fight in the lightweight division. But even if they weren't, if it was just those 2 names, it'll be great. So it was a little bit random and was unexpected to hear. But I mean, we kind of knew, right? At some point, I think a lot of people have been encouraging Michael Chandler for quite a while to say, let this go, man. Let this go. Like, go get yourself another fight. Go get paid again. But we've understood along the way why he hasn't. And I think for Michael Chandler, he's kind of, nobody's really talking about why and how. And, I think Michael Chandler was like, I forgot how it all came together. And Dana was like, yeah, I forgot too. How about that? I don't remember either. But I'm sure that they said, look, win or lose, you still get Conor. Win or lose, don't worry, buddy. Those pay-per-view points, they're there for you. It's that big chat. But let's keep you busy. Let's keep you fighting because we don't know what's going to happen. Dana White did say he feels confident about Conor next year. So I guess you know me, bro. I've been the 100% guy that Conor McGregor is going to fight again. Now I'm like the 99% guy that Conor McGregor is going to fight again. You know what I mean?
I'm the 87.6% guy that Conor will fight again.
There's a lot of people that like that dude's never fighting again. And there's a lot of people that really, really believe that. I think Conor the competitor in him, not even so much about, obviously he doesn't need the money. He doesn't even need the platform. He is his own platform now. You know what I mean? I just know that he loves to fight and he loves to compete. Mm-hmm. Plus, listen, I do think that he probably wants to end the contract because I think he would like an opportunity to go compete for BKFC. And, obviously he's a part owner in that organization now. I'm sure he'd like to compete there or at least pursue what other free agent options are out there because right now it's a much different scenario because you could come to the table and say, well, the UFC worked with them before on Floyd Mayweather. Why wouldn't they work with them again on this or that? Like, they're not going to anymore. It's just a different time, a different place. Things have changed quite a bit from their perspective. So I think he'd like to free himself to give himself some other options later in his career. But I think the competitor in him wants to compete. So I'm I'm still staying 99%. I'll allow. I for a while I wouldn't allow even that 1%. I'm now allowing that 1%.
Watch this, John.
Yeah. Not good. Yeah, let me get that right here. I'm right there with you.
All right, well, that's a good way to wrap it. Hey, before we do wrap up, a lot was mentioned about this with no particulars to it. MGM Properties, Dana White seems just does not like them, and he has publicly stated it. What is the deal there? Obviously they have some exclusivity deal for X amount of time, but Dana's really pissed off about it. Of course, MGM would hold him to it. I don't know any particulars of it. Can you shed some light for everybody who doesn't know what the hell is going on with this?
Yeah, so supposedly there's a documentary that's coming out where they're going to have some more behind the scenes details, because Dana White has come out and said, now he's explained a little bit about the initial situation, and this does make, well, I can't even say the initial situation. He's expressed this about the situation that led to the Sphere, which was last year they did Noche UFC on Mexican Independence Day. If you remember, Canelo didn't fight in Las Vegas that weekend. They moved a couple months later. So the UFC was able to do Noche UFC at T-Mobile Arena. It was so well received, and they had such a great night that they got together afterwards and said, man, we're going to do this thing. We're going to do Noche UFC again. They go to talk to T-Mobile Arena and say, hey, man, we want to do that again. We loved it so much. Let's do it again. And they say, oh, well, we've already booked that. Canelo's got that date next year. And he's like, well, wait a minute. Why'd you give away this date when you didn't even talk to us? And to your point, and we've discussed this point before, they're doing business. They had actually done several Canelo fights before. I think to them, it was a one-off to let the UFC do Noche UFC. But Dana White, to his point, I get it. He's like, hey, we're business partners. I do 4 events a year with you. I've been with MGM Properties for how long? Because don't forget, MGM is the MGM Grand Garden Arena, is Mandalay Bay Event Center. So even before T-Mobile Arena existed, they were partners together. And so I'm sure he thought, hey,
T-Mobile Arena is the occupying management and partner is MGM Properties.
That's right. They own it. They built it from the ground up. It's right next to Park MGM, which is another property that they obviously own. Like they own New York. They own the entire south end of the strip, right? And so they built T-Mobile Arena to be like, hey man, this will be even bigger than MGM Grand Garden Arena. So we know what happened there. I can see from the MGM perspective, they're like, wait a minute, we let you do a one-off, and now we just gave it back to the people that had it before you. But you can see from Dana's perspective, like, man, we've been doing business for 20 years. How are you going to give away a date without even talking to me? Now, that's where the conflict that we know about now is. But Dana says on top of that, like, they've been disrespecting me for years. They treat us like crap ever since we've been in there. I had never heard that before. I mean, to be honest, it always seemed like they got the dates they wanted. They were the first right to refusal and everything. Maybe that wasn't the case. So we're going to hear more. But that's what led to the Sphere, is that basically the frustration and the anger about that led Dana to go to the higher-ups at MGM and get a one-off release from his contract to go do the Sphere. Now, here's the interesting part. The Sphere is not owned by MGM. The Sphere is actually owned by Madison Square Garden Group, right? So but you can't do the Sphere every time because the costs involved. But there have been discussions here in Las Vegas of an additional arena being built that owned by an outside. In fact, there's multiple projects on the table of an additional arena being built by some outside groups. And that's where it gets a little bit interesting, because at the very least, because really, and you and I talked about it before, the UFC can say they're mad at MGM, but there's no other place in town to go. Like, they own all the venues. Like, unless you're going to roll over to Thomas and Mack, which that thing is, that's
dated. It's too dated for it.
It's 100%. It's dated. It's a building, but it's not up to the UFC standards. So they don't really have any options. So they could be upset, but it's like, well, and unless you want to do Allegiant Stadium or you want to do the Sphere, look who you're doing business with. But if any of these new arenas come in, now they've got options. The UFC could potentially go sign an exclusive deal with one of these new arenas. Now, it would only be probably 4 dates a year, the same way it is at MGM, but that's not a bad start for an arena that's being built to have 4 dates with the UFC. We'll see if they happen, if they come to fruition. There's talks about an NBA franchise coming here to Las Vegas, which I'm sure you've heard those rumblings and rumors, of course, being as ingrained in the NBA as you are. These could be some partners in those projects. So we'll see how it all plays out. If nothing else, though, it at least gives the UFC a bargaining chip to come to the table when they have these discussions with MGM again and say, what's that? You're the only game in town? Oh, guess what? You're not. And Dana mentioned it a little bit the other day. The one thing about the Sphere show, whether it resonated completely on TV or not, I think it really got his kind of gears clicking about what the future of live sporting events is. And he talked about it. He's like, and this plays right up your alley as well. He's like, listen, man, the days of I need a juggler at halftime or whatever. Like that's over. I think you got to go bigger. You know, the Clippers' new arena, right? I mean, you've seen what they've built, right? Unbelievable. And I think that, you know, what the Clippers built, seeing the Sphere, I think, you know, these buildings are going to have to start incorporating some more of these type technologies. And so anyway, so it's a little behind the scenes politics, but yeah, that's where all that stuff played out. And that's kind of what's happening here in Las Vegas and what we'll see unfold over the next couple of years.
Well, now I know.
There you go. There was it in a nutshell. And supposedly the UFC is filming a little documentary. I don't even know if I call it a documentary, but that's what he calls it. But they're going to come out with a video basically where they explain more, I guess, maybe of the disrespect and stuff. So if that does get published and made available, we'll certainly discuss it here and point people in the right direction.
I'm sure maybe MGM will get it leaked to them first to be like, should we redo this deal or?
That's such a savvy way to do business, right? Like, hey, by the way, take a look at this thing that we've got that's going to slam you and make sure everybody knows how you did us dirty here and there and why you don't have us anymore. Or maybe we could just lose this file. I mean,
or here's a nice little contract.
Maybe you want to sign that and like we just lose this file. I'm not even sure I love it that much anyway. I don't even know. We'd have to.
The lighting was off right here. I'm a perfectionist. We don't have to show.
Oh, I love it.
It takes too long to render.
It takes too long to render. We don't even have access to the render farm anymore. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's technical. It's probably way over your head.
Oh, man. Well, that was a fun episode, and new Merab Dvalishvili dominated the Sugar Show, who, flat-footed for probably many reasons. Valentina made it look easy. Diego Lopes, we said he's a star. He's on that level, man. He is going to be fighting, hopefully one of either Arnold Allen or Yair in his next fight for that number one contender. But he is going to weigh in allegedly for as a backup. And John Jones, Stipe officially announced. Conor wasn't told about the change in plans. He's left out of the loop, but I don't believe that. Anyway, with that being said, for John Morgan, I'm Eric Mc. Oh, wait, hold on. Where are you going this weekend?
Oh, yeah. Let me get a little plug in there. I appreciate that. Saturday night, Florida State Fairgrounds. If you're in Tampa, come out and see us. It is CFFC 135. We got a great lineup there for you. Come check us out. Or if not, at least watch us on UFC Fight Pass. I still don't have my man CM Punk back yet. Gina Lucille is doing a fantastic job of filling in for him, and she's along for the ride because we've got another one right next week in North Dakota as well, where I know I'm going to see you as well. So staying very busy.
On the call for that one as well?
Yeah, she'll be on that one as well. I don't know what all Punk's got going on. I mean, I know he's busy. I mean, I know you watch more wrestling than I do. Punk's in some good angles right now, right? He's got some good storylines going. So hopefully we'll have him back soon, but we won't have him for these next two events. But that's what I got going. So lots of CFFC and UFC Fight Pass. How about you?
I don't got much going on this weekend. The next weekend, obviously, I head out to Four Bears Casino in North Dakota. I'll see you there. I'm home for one day, head back out to Vegas for Dana White Contender Series October 1st. So my dance card's filling up. Plus, just got announced Gamebred MMA is coming back to Biloxi, Mississippi. Hey, did you hear about this fight? Chase Sherman versus Greg Hardy.
Oh, I did see that. I forgot. I was so busy last week that it slipped my mind. But yeah,
I'm booked for that card.
Nice.
So and then I got some other local shows. My dance card is full right now.
I love it. Staying busy. That's awesome to hear. And NBA season, come on.
Yeah, that's all with the NBA season starting in October. So it gets. My wife is going to be pissed.
She's going to be the single mom for a while. Sorry.
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
You're the one that wanted the extra kids. It's your fault.
Yeah. Oh man. Anyways, with that being said, for John Morgan, I'm Eric McMahon. Enjoy the fights.